Monday next week. Ratem left the hotel for the university. He had a lecture 2 hours later. This led to him leaving the hotel earlier than his normal time. In conclusion, processors are a vital component of modern computing, and they come in many different configurations to meet diverse computing needs. With that, Ratem completed his lecture, but just as he was about to give the students some homework, all the phones in the room received a notification informing them that they all received a message. The students in the class started looking at their phones. Usually they would be reprimanded for doing it, but he himself was doing the same thing as them. He was curious as what message was more important that it could make the whole classroom receive it at once. What he didn't know was that every student, teacher, and anyone who had any meaningful connection to the university received it at the same time as him. Recently leaked documents have exposed a disturbing case of academic corruption involving Professor Ratem, a prominent computer engineering professor at Columbia University, who allegedly accepted bribes in exchange for giving good grades to students. The documents, which can be downloaded from the following link, aratamhasasmaldik.com, provide evidence of financial transactions between Professor Ratem and students or their parents, with payments being made in exchange for favorable academic outcomes. This includes giving good grades to students who may not have earned them otherwise, and overlooking academic performance in favor of those who have paid bribes. This type of academic corruption is not only unethical but can have far-reaching consequences. Students who have paid bribes to receive favorable treatment may not be qualified for the opportunities they have been given, potentially depriving deserving students of those opportunities. This can also impact the reputation of the institution, eroding public trust and undermining the value of academic credentials. In conclusion, the leaked documents detailing academic corruption by Professor Ratem, a computer engineering professor at Columbia University, are deeply concerning. It is crucial that universities and academic institutions investigate these allegations thoroughly and take disciplinary action to maintain academic integrity. We must all prioritize ethical conduct in all academic endeavors to preserve the value of academic credentials and uphold the trust of the public. Link to download documents, aratamhasasmaldik.com. When he read the article and saw his name as the main character in the article, his heart fell and nearly stopped. He immediately collected his bag and left the classroom for his office faster than Barry Allen thought he is. When he arrived in his office room, he continued reading it. After he finished it, he pressed the link to see the evidence they used to make the case. The moment he opened the site, every cent he took from parents was listed with factual evidences like bank transfers, photos from CCTV cameras, audio of their conversations, or text messages. In some cases, all of them were included as evidence for just one allegation. When he reached just the half of it, he knew that he was fucked. He hastily packed his stuff in the office and immediately left the campus ground, heading to the hotel. His phone nearly overheated, from constant messages and phone calls trying to talk to him to know if it was true or not. But most of them were already convinced that it was true. After getting tired of rejecting the phone calls, he shut it down and focused on driving, lest he kills himself by causing an accident. Rena was also among those who received the notification, as she was considered having a connection to the university due to donating some money to sponsor his former husband's last thesis presentation conference. When she finished reading and looking at the website that had evidence, she knew that Ratem at the minimum would receive suspension or termination, and at the maximum he will receive a revocation of his academic degrees. It seems to be from the same person who sent me the email about his cheating, she said as she kept rereading the documents again and again. Who did you mess with, Ratem? Asked Rena as she reopened the email she received last week again. She copied the email address of the sender and sent it to her personal investigator. She told him that she wanted him to find the sender of the email. After she received the confirmation from him, she returned and continued with her work. She didn't care about Ratem anyway, as she has already divorced him last week. But what was left in her mind was that someone powerful was after Ratem, and she received help from them in which she would need to repay them in the future. Aaron kept looking at the reactions and continued making sure that the article isn't taken down, which was easy, as all he needed was to remove access of all of those who had it on the university new bulletin. Another thing keeping him busy was making sure that the server that the link led to didn't crash from massive traffic leading to it. He expected the article to also attract news stations' attention, but he didn't expect it to take only 15 minutes to reach them and appear on their channels as breaking news. Breaking news: bribery scandal rocks Columbia University Computer Engineering Department. Breaking news: Ivy League professor accused of corruption and bias in academic affairs. Breaking news: Columbia University faces criticism for alleged bribery and embezzlement. Breaking news: leaked documents expose professors' misconduct at Columbia University. Breaking news: academic community outraged over Columbia University bribery scandal. Breaking news: Columbia University computer engineering professor accused of accepting bribes for good grades. Breaking news: leaked documents reveal corruption at Ivy League University. Breaking news: academic integrity under threat at Columbia University. Breaking news: Columbia University investigates professor for allegedly accepting bribes. Breaking news: Columbia University faces backlash after professor accused of accepting bribes for good grades. These were some of the headlines in some major news channels. I didn't oversee this chain reaction. He said this while smacking his forehead. Rod-M could be seen sitting in his hotel room, in his hand a television's remote switching between channels to just be left with a look of horror as all the news channel he could access from his room were talking about him. They showed his photo and his life history was shown by all the channels, but during his stress he found something strange with the news reports. Although all of them were reporting stories about him, his life as a professor and every other thing, but what was weird was that they mentioned neither his blood connection to the Morgan family nor about his former marriage to a member of the Rothschild family. That's when he realized that they are not going to help him at all, but they will just remove any of their association to him. But just as he was about to start thinking on how to minimize damage that could be done to him, a notification with different sound came from his phone. It came with different notification sound because he set his important contacts notifications to a different tone. When he opened the phone, he found an email from the university. Subject: Notice of unpaid suspension, pending investigation. Dear Professor Rodham, I am writing to inform you that effective immediately, you are being placed on unpaid suspension pending an investigation into allegations of academic corruption at Columbia University. As you may be aware, leaked documents have recently come to light that detail financial transactions between you and students or their parents in exchange for favorable academic outcomes, including giving good grades to students who may not have earned them otherwise. The university takes these allegations very seriously, and we have a responsibility to ensure that academic integrity is upheld. As such, we have convened an academy disciplinary committee to investigate these allegations thoroughly. However, during this time, you will be suspended from your duties at the university and will not receive any pay. We understand that this may be a difficult time for you, but we assure you that the investigation will be conducted fairly and impartially. We urge you to cooperate fully with the committee and provide any information that may be relevant to the investigation. Please note that this suspension is without prejudice to the outcome of the investigation. Depending on the findings of the committee, further disciplinary action may be taken. We will keep you informed of any developments in this matter. Thank you for your understanding. Sincerely, on behalf of the Academy Disciplinary Committee at Columbia University. The moment he finished reading, he shouted with his full power, "Phew!" startling the neighbor roommates and receive a response from someone on the corridor. "Shut the fuck up, you don't own the fucking hotel, jackass," shouted a guy from the corridor as he nearly fainted after being startled by Rodham's shouting. Wednesday. On the third day, he received an email about the decision they have come to after their 2 days of their in-depth investigation. This came as a surprise to him, as he expected that they would take more than a month of investigation, and since by that time he would have been out of the public's eye, then the university would at most only terminate his job. But what he got was way more than expected, and the decision came in just 2 days, and it is more brutal. Subject: termination of employment and revocation of academic degree. Dear Professor Rodham, I regret to inform you that after conducting a thorough investigation into the allegations of academic corruption against you, the Academy Disciplinary Committee has decided to terminate your employment at Columbia University, effective immediately. We take academic integrity very seriously, and the evidence presented during the investigation was both compelling and incriminating. The committee found that you have violated the fundamental principles of academic honesty and ethical conduct by accepting bribes and embezzling research funds. Such behavior is not tolerated at our institution. Furthermore, we have also initiated the process of revoking your academic degree, as it is imperative that we maintain the highest standards of academic integrity and ethical conduct. We will notify you once a decision has been made in this regard. Please be aware that the termination of your employment and the revocation of your academic degree are both final decisions, and there is no room for appeal. We will be in touch with you shortly regarding the logistics of your departure from the university. We ask that you return any university property and complete any outstanding tasks before your departure. We wish you the best in your future endeavors. Sincerely, on behalf of the Academy Disciplinary Committee at Columbia University. What he didn't know was that, since the families of the students that received grade bump were very influential, they decided to cover up the case by putting all the blame on him, and in return the university will receive massive donations from them. This didn't mean that those students will not receive punishment, but what they will receive will only be a slap in the hand compared to what they would have normally received. With all of the blame being put on him, the university came to the decision of revoking his academic degree. This meant that he will not be able to teach in any university in America and anywhere that required those credentials for the job, practically reducing the ways he could earn money. When he came to the realization of it, he fell on his bed and fainted from shock due to the stress his brain received from thinking about his future. When Aaron also received the email that was being sent to Rotem since he duplicated Rotem's account, he learned of the university's decision of terminating his job and revocation of his degree. His heart finally felt the knot it had since his expulsion from the university finally become untied. Finally, he can start to sorely focus on his future plans without anything to distract him anymore. You might say, what about the sexual assault case from Rachel? He already paid half of the promised money to her, so why didn't he use it? Well, that is because, as they said, don't put all your eggs in one basket, Sun Tzu. He was saving it for the future in case the professor makes a comeback and comes back for revenge. Better be over-prepared than under-prepared, Sun Tzu. But he finished the money owed to her and told her to be prepared to sue Rotem at any time. When he does that, he will compensate her for it again. And now that he can focus on his work without the distraction in his heart, he finally decided on the next project. An operating system is what he decided to make. The reason he chose making operating system, OS, is due to him discovering an infinite money glitch in the system. Here is how it works. The system rewards him at the minimum of 1 SP anytime he or someone used something created using the system's knowledge. This meant that, if he created something that many people will use, he will earn the minimum of 1 SP anytime someone downloaded and used the product. But why OS, not a social media site or something else? This is because he needed a land where he can keep planting new plants on it all the time. If his OS becomes a giant in the market and have millions or billions of users, he could make new products or apps that could use the OS as their road to the market. This is because one of the most critical components of the OS is its App Store. His OS will also have one, and anytime he needs more SP, he would just release an app, and by marketing it using the OS, he could gain millions upon millions of SP freely by people downloading and trying it. But all of that will be taken care after he attends the meeting at the company. Thursday. Aaron woke up the next morning feeling well-rested. This was due to him having completed his revenge, making him have a nice sleep. He left his bed and entered the bathroom to wash his face. Then he changed his clothes to the ones he used for sports to prepare for his daily quest. He headed to the park in his neighborhood to start his daily workout routine. When he completed his daily quest, he returned home and went to the bathroom for a long and refreshing shower. After cleaning himself, he ate his breakfast, then went to the garage and took one of the car. Then he headed to the office. Gaia Technology HQ. Aaron arrived to the office about 30 minutes later and entered the building through the underground parking lot. When he left his car, he found Sarah waiting for him while holding the elevator for him so that they can go together. "Were you waiting for long?" he asked as he straightened his clothes and entered the elevator. "Not too long, about 10 minutes, she replied while clicking their floor number after Aaron entered the elevator. "So when are they arriving?" he asked as the elevator started moving. "In about 45 minutes, she replied while looking at her watch. They continued their journey while having small talks until they reached her office, as his was not in existence due to him not wanting to waste space when they just opened the company. When they entered her office, They started talking about the company's operation as they waited for the NATO representatives to arrive. When is the Sever farm going to be completed? He asked as he needed it to start the full development of the OS. Although his home server will suffice if the OS was a normal one, the one he planned to make needed a bigger server and high computing power to complete it by the time he planned to. According to the project manager's last report, we are about a month away from the server being operational ready. Currently, they are assembling the servers, testing them, testing the cooling system, and everything else. Good. Aaron nodded in approval. This didn't mean that the making of the OS is postponed. He will only have to start working on it in his home server, then move when the server is complete. How is the rollout preparation for Bugzapper's subscription service? He asked. You don't read the reports, do you? She asked as she looked at Aaron. She was not disappointed at him to the slightest for not taking his company seriously. She was used at it now as it happened numerous times before. I was focusing on something, but now that I have completed dealing with it, I will begin focusing on it. He gave an excuse while avoiding eye contact with her. Anyway, we have already signed a contract with Amazon for their web services, and we have completed uploading the program to their servers, and it's ready for release after about a week of testing. She replied to him, but she didn't believe in his promise about focusing on the company. But since we have agreement with NATO that we will give them a buffer period of 1 month for them to start implementing in on their infrastructure, we will have to delay our release until October. She added, what is expected traffic after the rollout, and how is the advertisement plan going? From our marketing department analysis, since the program is focused on the development side of the issue, we just need to focus our marketing to developers and not waste money on social media. So, based on their estimates, if we spend about $10 million on the month before, during its release, and by giving early but restricted access to some influencers in the security communities, we should earn about $50 million in the first month, but keeping them there and expanding the user base will depend on the program delivering on its promises. With that, she finished explaining all the things he missed from not reading the email she sent to her. As he was about to ask more questions, Sarah's secretary knocked and entered the room to say that the reception desk has informed us that the representatives have arrived and they are on the elevator heading here, she said. They have finally arrived, Aaron said while standing from the chair, and head to the elevator to welcome them. Yeah, finally, Sarah agreed to his words as she followed him to do the same thing. As Sarah, the CEO of GIA Technology, sat at the conference table, Aaron sat beside her, making the head of NATO representatives nod to him in acknowledgement. They knew who he was, as the American government provided them with the full details about the company during their negotiation phase. Aaron returned the acknowledgement with the same nod. He wasn't surprised that they knew who he was, as he expected them to do background information on his company and its owner. Sarah could feel the weight of the momentous occasion upon her. In front of her, the representatives of NATO await, ready to sign the agreement that will set their partnership in motion. After weeks of back-and-forth discussions and careful consideration of the terms, both parties are finally ready to make it official. Sarah knows that this partnership will be a game-changer for the company, as it will bring worldwide recognition and legitimacy to GIA Technology's innovative solutions. With a sense of pride and anticipation, she takes a deep breath and reaches for her pen, ready to sign on the dotted line and take the company to new heights. As Sarah signs her name on the agreement, she feels a sense of relief wash over her. This partnership with NATO is a significant step forward for GIA Technology, and she knows that it will help propel the company to new levels of success. Since they have already come to an agreement, it no longer needs to be kept secret. NATO would have to announce this partnership if they wanted to prevent chaos when the program is released for public use. Sarah was particularly happy about this because it will act as a free advertisement for the company, saving them millions in advertisement spending. She looked up and met the gaze of the representative from NATO, who smiled and extended his hand in congratulations. Sarah took it, feeling a surge of pride for making this partnership become a reality. After a brief handshake with Sarah, the representative extended it to Aaron too, who shook his hand with a smile on his face as he had become a fucking billionaire. Joke's on you, Rodham, he thought as he kept smiling like a crazy person while escorting the representatives to the building's elevator and talking to them. Immediately after escorting them, he spent about an hour talking with Sarah about the company's operations. Then he left for home to finally start the development of his next project. After half an hour, he arrived at home where there was no one as his parents were out and Henry was at school. So, he went directly to his workroom to begin the project as he was excited to start it. Aaron's goal with Gaia OS was to create a revolutionary operating system that would change the way people interact with technology. This would act as a way to convince people to start using it, making him earn large amounts of SP. Currently, although some good OS existed, they were divided into different platforms and for different devices. The computer OS market was almost fully monopolized by Microsoft's Windows 8, a little bit by Mac OS X Mountain Lion, and the remaining of the market used different types of the Linux OS. As for the smartphone market, it was also monopolized by two companies, Apple's iOS 6 and Google's open-source Android 4.2 Jelly Bean. As for the BlackBerry OS X and Windows Phone 8 OS, they were on the market but are on their last legs. Due to this difference in operating systems, OS, for personal devices, it forced the app development market to divide their resources during development to account for every OS that they wanted their app or program to be capable of being used in. This means the same program has to be written in 3 different programming languages to account for Android, iOS, Windows, and Linux use. This will also increase the cost of making an app as the difference in these programming languages will force the developers to create a new system that would integrate these different programming languages in order to work as one program across all platforms. That was the market he wanted to tap using his Gaia OS. And by making the OS capable of being used by all personal devices, managed to run all programs no matter the language it was written in and make it efficient and aesthetically pleasing, he will have access to a market of more than 4 billion personal devices or more. After he entered the room, he powered on his workbench to start his work. As his dream OS would be difficult to make with the current technology, he needed to buy some of the technologies from the shop to allow him to make his dream come true. The infinite SP glitch, on technicality. He had already bought what he needed from the system yesterday night to prevent him having to sleep during the day. Before yesterday, he had more than 275,000 SP. This was thanks to the NSA keeping testing the limit of the program by giving it new programs. They wanted to know its pattern so that they can maybe one day reverse engineer it. Yesterday he bought AGI, Artificial General Intelligence, a small step taken by bipedal humans in the year 2096. Price frowny face 225,000 SP. The system deemed AGI to be just a small step. Normally, this would have come as a surprise to him, but after seeing those that needed more than 1 million SP to buy it, he just gave up and forgot about it. Although the system deemed it a small thing, his current world was still at the level of task-oriented machine learning, meaning they can just teach to be exceptionally good at one thing while dumb in everything else. But AGI, Artificial General Intelligence, is capable of being exceptional at almost all things that it can access data and learn from. Although Aaron bought the full AGI, Artificial General Intelligence, it didn't mean that he was going to put it fully into the OS that would make it impossible to be handled by normal computers or smartphones and could only be used with massive servers. So, he decided to compartmentalize it and just choose the things he wanted from it to use for his OS. He will create his own assistant AGI, Artificial General Intelligence, to help him later because the server wasn't completed yet and his home server can't handle it. That's why he postponed it until after he finished the OS, since if he waited until the server was completed, he would have wasted a long time that could have been used well. These are the things that he wanted his OS to have. The first thing he wanted was device compatibility. He wanted Gaia OS to be used in any personal device available out there, be it phones, computers, tablets, and other personal devices. Aaron wanted to make sure that the operating system could adapt to all these devices and provide a seamless user experience. And the first step towards this was to make sure the operating system was compatible with all the different personal devices out there. He also wanted Gaia OS to have adaptability. This feature will enable the OS to seamlessly work on a variety of devices ranging from cheap phones to expensive smartphones, computers, and others. The aim is for the OS to optimize itself depending on the strengths and weaknesses of each type of device, making it more user-friendly and efficient. An example of adaptability is when it comes to optimization for cheap phones. Cheap phones are known for their weak processors and limited memory. To combat these weaknesses, the Gaia OS will be optimized to use minimal resources, making the most of what is available. This will result in longer battery life and improved performance, even on budget-friendly devices. The OS will prioritize efficient usage of the CPU, minimizing its usage when possible and utilizing it only when necessary. As for expensive devices, they are typically high-end devices with powerful processors and ample memory. However, their strengths often come with drawbacks, such as short battery life. The Gaia OS will take advantage of the high-end specs of these devices to provide users with an optimal experience. For these devices, the OS will prioritize battery optimization using efficient algorithms to minimize battery drain. Additionally, the OS will use the GPU and other hardware components to provide fast and smooth performance, taking full advantage of the powerful hardware in these devices. For computers, the Gaia OS will adapt itself to provide the best performance for desktop and laptop users. This means that the OS will prioritize different aspects, such as memory management, storage optimization, and GPU acceleration. The Gaia OS will also take into account the use cases of computer users, such as gaming, video editing, or coding, and optimize the performance for each specific scenario. For example, for gaming, the OS will allocate more memory and resources to the GPU, improving the gaming experience. For video editing, the OS will optimize the storage to provide fast read and write speeds, improving the overall workflow. As technology advances, it becomes more capable and more complex, and the same applies to operating systems. Operating systems are becoming more memory-heavy as they come with an increasing amount of functions. As a result, storage space is becoming a precious commodity, especially for mobile devices. Aaron recognized this issue and chose to start his work on the Gaia OS with the optimization of storage. To accomplish this, he started his optimization of the storage by implementing a smart repository system. The repository system allows the operating system to identify which files are being used the most and which ones are rarely used. It stores frequently accessed files in faster memory such as RAM or SSD, while files that are rarely used are stored on slower but larger storage devices like hard drives. As for mobile devices, Aaron wrote a code to compress and store files in a more compact way to reduce the amount of storage space required for each file. He also added in the code to make the OS capable of dynamically adjusting its compression usage based on the available resources of the device it was being run on, meaning that the amount of compression is dependent on the processing speed of the device. This was so that the OS could do the decompression of the data without any delay or having any performance reduction. The amount of compression is dependent on the processing speed of the device, which ensures that the OS can do the decompression of the data without any delay or having any performance reduction. Due to that, he could only compress the data or files in cheap devices to the limit of 8 times. Any more than that would result in a slight performance reduction. After a long time, he finally managed to make the optimization of storage work seamlessly, and then he moved on to the next feature he wanted to add above the foundation of storage compression, which was cloud storage. Aaron wanted Gaia OS to have the ability to store users' compressed files in the cloud. This would allow users to store the files they are not using frequently to free the space in their devices. The cloud storage feature would also allow for easy collaboration and sharing of files, making it an ideal solution for businesses and individuals alike. This feature also allows users to access their files from any device with an internet connection without having to worry about storage space. Aaron's focus on storage optimization was because he wanted to make Gaia OS a highly efficient and effective operating system that was able to adapt to the needs of its users. Whether the user was running Gaia OS on a high-end desktop computer or a budget smartphone, he wanted the operating system to be able to make the most of the available storage space, providing users with a seamless experience. To achieve that, Aaron knew that although compression is important, the reading speed was also a critical aspect of the operating system's performance. To optimize the reading and writing speed of memory, Aaron implemented a special algorithm that could work with any type of memory, including the slowest ones. The algorithm analyzed the memory's read and write speed, and then optimized how it does that to almost double the speed, resulting in a much faster and smoother experience. This algorithm was also able to learn over time and make further optimizations based on the user's usage patterns, making the overall experience even better. Additionally, he implemented techniques like caching, indexing, and defragmentation that would help the operating system access data faster. By incorporating these techniques and optimizations, Aaron was confident that Gaia OS would provide a lightning-fast memory reading experience for all users. And this was just one of the many steps he was taking towards making it the best OS in existence. While Aaron was focusing on making his OS, some things were happening. A week after they signed the agreement, NATO held a press conference to make an announcement. As the NATO spokesperson entered the conference room and strode confidently towards the podium, everyone focused so that they don't miss the announcement that was about to be made. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here today to make an important announcement about NATO's cybersecurity infrastructure. The spokesperson's voice was clear and confident, and everyone in the room listened intently. As part of our ongoing efforts to protect our member nations from cyber threats, NATO has invested $10.5 billion into acquiring a program that will help us identify and address weaknesses in our cybersecurity systems from GIA Technologies. The spokesperson paused for a moment to let the news sink in before continuing. It's important to note that we have only purchased the rights to use the program, rather than the program itself. This cost-effective solution will allow us to fully utilize the program's capabilities without incurring additional expenses. Our member nations have already begun using the program, and we expect to have the implementation completed by the end of this month. With this program, we are confident that we can identify and address any weaknesses in our cybersecurity systems, ensuring that we can better protect our member nations. With that, the conference room erupted into a flurry of activity as reporters and journalists began to ask questions about the announcement. The spokesperson patiently answered each question, fully aware of the importance of the announcement and the need for clarity around its implications. Somewhere in America, a dog could be seen wandering in a room. There was a man sitting on a couch watching the TV. Currently, it was showing NATO's press conference informing the world about the reason for their secret meeting held nearly a month ago. "Looks like we were right," he said in Russian as he looked at the folder with Aaron's personal information on the table. They had already found out who the owner of the company was and had already paid a few workers there to tell them what was happening in the company. When they learned that NATO was negotiating with the company in order to license their security program, they tried to make their mole employee get the program, but he failed due to the workers in the company having no access to it. The worker in the company could only tell them that the program was not in their hands and was already in Amazon servers, and he does not have access to it. He also added that it will be released to the public soon anyway, so there was no need for them to try and get their hands on it. After failing to steal the program through the mole, they started focusing on the owner of the company, as they suspected him of either being the developer of the program or he knew who made it and bought it from them, which was rather unlikely as in their background check they found that he was poor. A phone call interrupted his thoughts. "Comrade," with those words he started the conversation. "Stop the plan of industrial espionage and try to have contact with the owner of the company," said the voice on the other side. "From our investigation, we discovered that he spends most of the time at home, and there seems to be a few FBI neighbors near the house looking after him, so it will be difficult," he replied. "Find a way. The Kremlin wants the program in its full version to be in our hands within 2 months. He suspects that after securing their cyber infrastructure, they will move to offense in cyberspace as a retaliation to the GRU, Russia's version of Cybercom, as we have been attacking their important infrastructure all the time with the Chinese. The Chinese are also on the move, so you better move faster than them before the FBI catches wind of this and moves in to block us," said the voice on the other side. "If it's that urgent, can we use force?" he asked. "Vladimir," the voice on the other side said, causing him to stiff. He knew the moment his name was mentioned, he must have fucked up something. He immediately stood up and replied, "Yes, sire," loudly, causing the dog to jump from being startled, and it started barking at him, but he didn't care. "I said, have it within the 2-month period." Those are the only words he said before he ended the call. He was left there with his phone still on his ear while his chest was puffing from fear and his brain was pushing adrenaline in his body. That was how much Vladimir was scared of the man. When the dog felt that its owner was scared, it came to him and started going between his legs to try and calm him, causing him to come to himself. When he looked down and realized it was the dog who calmed him, he kicked it in frustration, sending it to the other side of the room. "Fuck!" he shouted at the whimpering dog lying on the ground in pain. He kicked the dog to hide and vent his fear as anger. He feared the man because the moment he messes up, he was fucked. In FSB, if you fail your mission, your supervisor decides your punishment. And he once saw someone getting slowly run over by a tank to his slow and painful death as his punishment. That was the result of the punishment this guy chose. So, he wasn't taking the work as a joke anymore, and since he had 2 months, he decided to take the full month to prepare for all the contingencies. Vladimir picked up the document with Aaron's name and started reading it very carefully, afraid that he might miss something important. So he doesn't have security detail, which makes my job easier. He spends most of his time at home. That's also good. Now all I have to do is get the house's plan. He was getting happier by the time, as his target was a person who stays at home, making Vladimir just focusing on planning how he can enter the house. Another good news for him was that Aaron was a new money. This caused Aaron to not put too much importance in his security, as he was used to living without security guards before he became rich. And since he was not famous to need them, it didn't come to his mind. This led him to overlook it. Another thing he learned was that the house was inhabited by 4 people: Aaron's parents, his younger brother Henry, and him. But most of the time he is alone, as his parents like going outside and Henry has to go to school. So it looks like we have to find a time window that he is alone to reduce variables. With that, he had the foundations to start his plan on top of. After he finished with memory optimization, he moved to the next aspect he wanted the OS to have. He started making a unique identifier for the OS that could use 5 or more than it depending on the sensors the device had. The unique identifier would use phone's camera, microphone, fingerprints, and more. Through these, the OS will create a unique identity for the user, making sure no one has access to the device other than the user or those permitted by the user. The identifier will also be uploaded to the cloud and could be used by users to access their files in the cloud through other devices. Although it may seem like it was a security breach, this was prevented as the data was encrypted. To have access to your own data through other devices, you will have to enter a password linked to your account. Then it would access the credentials in the cloud and use their verification methods. Then you will gain access to your files on the new device. The identifier could also be used as an anchor to your own ecosystem, meaning that you could use your phone's identifier and link it to your home appliances, making you have remote access to them no matter where you are. This could also be used in Bluetooth speakers or any other home device. With that done, he moved to the next aspect, which might be considered as the thing that distinguishes it from any other operating system in the market. That was the operating system's virtual assistant. And since he had already bought the complete AGI, Artificial General Intelligence, from the system's shop, he could make the operating system's assistant with his eyes closed. But since he couldn't make the OS handle the entirety of AGI as it needed server-grade hardware to be able to even run, he decided to compartmentalize the AGI and just use some of the functions that could be useful for his virtual assistant. Although it might seem like the virtual assistant will be weaker, if completed, it would be ahead of any of the world's AI by more than 50 years at the latest. These are some of the small AI that were compartmentalized from the AGI. Remember that these are just small parts that are combined to make about 0.5% of the AGI. As for why he didn't use the rest of the thing is because they are too advanced to be used on personal devices. Multimodal function. This system is capable of processing and understanding multiple modes of input, such as speech, text, images, gestures, and more. This is to make sure the virtual assistant doesn't miss any input from the user to prevent miscommunication. Intelligent agent perceives its environment, reasons about it, and takes actions to maximize its chances of success. This uses the input it receives to analyze and process the information. Cognitive system process the information it receives and perform tasks that require human-like intelligence and reasoning. Natural language processing refers to the use of AI and computational linguistics to process and analyze human language naturally without making the user speak in a specific style to prevent discomfort. Computational linguistics, the computational and mathematical aspects of the human language ability. This works in tandem with the natural language processing system to make speech recognition easier. Assistant refers to a computer program that is designed to assist a human user with tasks, such as scheduling appointments and answering questions. This will be the visual aspect of the whole system when it is combined. Multilingual system. It is capable of understanding and communicating in multiple languages, for making sure everyone on Earth can use the assistant. Ethical watcher. It is designed to consider ethical and moral values in its decision-making processes, making it decide how to respond depending on the request while avoiding breaking the law. Adaptive system. It is capable of adapting to changing circumstances and environments. This will make it ready to respond to any situation. Sentiment analysis. It is capable of processing, representing, and responding to emotions, for understanding the user's current emotional situation and respond accordingly. Expert system refers to a computer system that is designed to mimic the decision-making abilities of a human expert in a specific field. After deciding what he will use from the AGI for his virtual assistant, he started making it. He started with multimodal function to ensure that the AI system would be able to understand the user's inputs in a variety of different forms, making it the first thing any input that is being provided to the virtual assistant passes through it. This includes text, speech, even gestures, and many more. By making the AI multimodal, Aaron was confident that the virtual assistant would be able to provide a much more seamless and intuitive user experience. The multimodal AI system would be responsible for performing a wide range of tasks, with the cooperation of natural language processing, sentiment analysis, cognitive system, and speech recognition. These systems would act as the foundation for the virtual assistant, which would then make it able to process and analyze the user's data to provide insights and recommendations. He added cognitive system to the AI because he wanted it to think and reason like a human, making it capable of solving complex problems and making informed decisions. After successfully incorporating them, Aaron decided to add several other advanced AI technologies to make the virtual assistant even more powerful and versatile. First on his list was the multilingual AI. This technology allowed the virtual assistant to understand and respond to multiple languages, making it accessible to a wider range of users. Aaron believed that the multilingual AI would greatly enhance the user experience by allowing people to communicate with the virtual assistant in their preferred language. Aaron then added the intelligent agent technology to the virtual assistant. This system allowed the virtual assistant to function as an autonomous agent, making it capable of performing tasks and making decisions on its own. Aaron believed that the intelligent agent technology would greatly enhance the user experience by making it easier for people to get things done with the virtual assistant. Another function that Aaron added to the virtual assistant was the adaptive AI. This technology allowed the virtual assistant to learn and adapt to the user's behavior and preferences, making it even more intuitive and user-friendly. Aaron believed that the adaptive AI would greatly enhance the user experience by making it possible for the virtual assistant to learn from the user and provide a more personalized experience. Finally, he added ethical AI, as it was another important aspect that Aaron considered while creating the virtual assistant. It was crucial to ensure that its usage aligns with ethical and moral standards. Aaron wanted to make sure that the virtual assistant operates in a responsible and ethical manner, taking into account the potential consequences of its actions and decisions. The ethical AI component also monitors the data usage and privacy of the users and ensures that their data is protected and used only for the intended purpose. In addition, it analyzes the potential impact of AI technology on society, the user, and provides recommendations for mitigating any negative consequences. By incorporating ethical AI, Aaron wanted to remove any grounds for lawsuit against him or his company by those who deemed him as a threat to their interests. In the eyes of the general user, he wanted it to be perceived as the company that dedicate extensive research and development to creating AI technology that not only offers practical benefits but also operates in an ethically responsible manner. With that, only one thing remained for the Gaia OS. It took him 2 weeks to finally complete making the OS. Although the OS was completed, it was not ready for use, because the virtual assistant was not trained at all. And as we all know, an AI without data for training is just a fancy-looking code. But he had to wait for the new server to be completed in 2 weeks for him to be able to train the AI. While he was thinking about this, he received a call from Sarah. Hello. Yeah, hello, Aaron. I called to inform you that the server has been completed. Wasn't it supposed to be completed in 2 weeks? The head of the project added those 2 weeks in case a problem appears during the testing of the equipments, but when they started testing things, surprisingly nothing caused a huge problem that couldn't be solved immediately. Good. I was done with the program and only waiting for the data center to be done to start my work. You told me about the project 2 weeks ago. Are you done with it already? She asked in surprise, as she didn't expect him to be done in just 2 weeks. I started the project 2 weeks ago, but I was planning it for longer than that. Oh, okay. Now give me the access credentials for the server. I have to start working on it to finish it faster. Write down. The hostname is gaiatechnology.privateserver.com, IP address 192.168.1.100, username, admin, and the password is PA$W0RD123". What is with that password? Since you are the only one that will have access to it, we made it simple so that you can change it, she answered while laughing. Okay. Aaron laughed too, making the situation more comical. Are you guys ready for the release of the program? He asked. We are ready and waiting for the 2-week remaining period to pass and begin releasing it to the public. And since NATO's press conference, we have been in the industry's eye from when they heard how much NATO paid us. Well, we have to thank them for the free publicity. Yeah, that made our job of convincing the tech influencer easier. We have already provided them with the program, and they will start releasing videos and articles in the last week before the release to attract more attention from the industry and make them be ready for its release. Okay, then talk to you when I'm done with the project then. See you. See you too, she replied, bidding him farewell. After the call, he opened the remote desktop app in his computer and entered the IP address and hostname of the data center server, along with his login credentials. After he accessed the server, he immediately changed the password and the username, making sure only he will have access to it, as he didn't want someone to know what and how he was doing. With the server access done, he immediately uploaded the blank slate virtual assistant to the server to begin its training. He called it a blank slate because AI that has not yet been trained on any specific dataset or task. This term suggests that the AI has no pre-existing knowledge or understanding of the world, and must be trained or programmed in order to perform a particular task or application. With that, he started with the training of the virtual assistant. He didn't need to collect and arrange the data in any way, as the virtual assistant will collect all the data and learn all of it, and after that it will arrange the content by categories. The ethical AI will do the approving and Aaron will do the final check. Although he will be taking a look at the final data, he will be looking at it just to make sure, because from the knowledge he got from the AGI, he could be sure that the AI will not go rogue or do something that is not permitted by its code. These problems were solved during its time, and the AGI that Aaron received from the system was the final version of it with all the bugs removed. Also, the data that will be arranged into categories will be made into a knowledge database stored in the server to be used for later training of other AIs. The virtual assistant started surfing the internet using the server's high-speed internet. The highest speed of internet the data centers had was around 40 gigabits per second, Gbps. This was the fastest speed you could get at this time, 2013. This was also the reason he had to pay the service provider more than $50,000 every month for that internet speed. He wanted to have enough data to train any AI before the release of the bug zapper. This is also the reason the server had the memory capacity of 500 petabytes. This was so that he could collect and save all the data in his private server without having to worry about someone accessing it without his permission. He waited and waited and waited and waited and waited and waited and waited, while the server was working to its full capability, collecting, analyzing, and categorizing data in the magnitudes of a petabyte every 55 hours. After 3 weeks, the virtual assistant finally finished collecting, learning, and categorizing data in the total of 10 petabytes. Keep in mind that this data was already analyzed and already categorized, and could now be used to train any AI until the level of AGI. This meant that he could just use this data to train his AGI using just this data, and it will be ready for service. As for the finished virtual assistant, after using the data, it could now speak and understand every language that exists on the internet. This included the Klingon from Star Trek, Elvish from The Lord of the Rings, Dothraki from Game of Thrones, and many more. As long as the full vocabulary and rules are in the internet, it has already learned it. It also learned math, physics, and any subjects out there, and since it could use its cognitive system to understand and explain them differently, it meant it could argue based on the topic. Vladimir has finished his investigation and planned to infiltrate Aaron's house. He was currently just waiting for the FBI watching the house to leave, as he expected them to leave in about 2 or 3 weeks after NATO countries finished their implementation of the program in their infrastructure. It was currently a week after they completed the implementation, so he was sure they will be living their surveillance duty in about a week or 2 more. He used this time to review his plans and practice again and again, making sure there was no mistake, as he knew that his life depended on it, and the moment he failed, there would be a tank warming its engines for him somewhere in Russia. From his repeated collection of information, he already knew when Henry will be at school and his parents will be outside, making the house remain with only Aaron in it. The good news is that he already has the house plan from the realtor Aaron bought it from after spending a few $1,000s through a proxy. Another good news is that Aaron doesn't have any military training as he is just an expelled graduate, though he found out that he always trains the same routine daily, which was strange. So, he expected him to try to fight his way out, but that won't cause any problem to him as he was professionally trained, and the other one was just used to just running and push-ups. He could have used his training as a chance to ambush him, but what he needed was the program, not Aaron himself. Due to this, that plan was shelved. He wanted to avoid the parents because he didn't want more variables that might cause him to kill someone in the United States soil. Because if he does that, the case will move from a suspected industrial espionage to a foreign operation by an enemy nation, and it might force the FBI to move aggressively and manage to track him down, as he couldn't avoid all the surveillance cameras in the goddamn city. So he planned to be in and out of the house in a matter of minutes, while leaving as little traces and hints that could be used to lead anyone to him as possible. And if he is caught, he will either have to commit suicide, or he will have to spend a good time in a black site somewhere, being tortured for information. And he didn't want to take someone's place in those black sites, as he really liked his home, and the dog, which is now cautious of him due to footballing it a few times when his plan were interrupted. With the completion of training of the AI, Aaron started testing it. "Can you understand me?" "Yes, sir. How can I help you?" replied a neutral voice as a chibi version of a person appeared on the computer screen, turning everything dark. "What is your name?" "I currently have none. Would you like to bestow one for easier communication?" It answered the chibi. "Then I will call you Ava," Aaron named him that as that was what came to his mind. "Thank you, sir," replied Ava as its voice changed to a feminine one. "Why did your voice change?" "From my data I found that Ava is usually used as a female name, hence the change, sir. Would you like me to change the voice?" "No, keep it." He liked its intuitive thinking. "Thank you, sir." "Can you think for yourself?" he asked just to see what it would reply. "No, sir. I can only reply using the data I have. But since I have sufficient data, I can choose what to reply from multitude of choices, giving the illusion of free will." "Good. What is your current size?" "Including the training data, my size is 10 petabytes, but a trained VA is only 54 MB. "Why is the training data removed from the trained one?" he asked, although he knew why, as he wanted to see how much it can extrapolate from its data. Just like a trained child's brain forgets the memories used to train, it can be said the same with me. "Good, power off." With the virtual assistant powering off, Aaron closed the virtual machine the virtual assistant was running and returning to his normal Windows screen. Although he knew nothing would go wrong, there is nothing in being careful. That's why he used the virtual machine to test the AI. Since the AI worked as expected, he exported the data of the trained VA, which only amounted to 54 MB. Then he added the virtual assistant into the operating system. After that, he limited the virtual assistant capabilities on what it can say and what it can't say, things like how it was trained or what its programming language is. He made sure that no classified information as deemed by him will be released to the public even by accident, since if the public knows the existence of a new programming language, it might cause a problem for him and force the company to release it to the public due to pressure. With the completion of that, the total size of Gaia OS came to 236 MB, too small for the capabilities it held. This was due to Aaron using Prometheus++ programming language, which helped him put many function into a small size. With the size of it being small, it could act as a way to make people try it, but if it was the size of more than a GB, very few people would even entertain the idea of downloading it. He immediately went ahead and logged into his Apple developer and Google Play developer accounts. This account was created for him by Sarah using the company name. This meant that he could publish his apps in the company name without having to trouble them, but he will have to at least let them know that he did so. He then submitted the OS for review by the App Store or Google Play Store team. Usually app stores don't have an OS in them, but he made a few changes to it to make it look like an assistant app. This would help it pass the review process and have it published in the competitor's app store. With that, he could make his future competitor sell his OS using their app stores. The review process typically involves checking your app for quality, security, and compliance with platform guidelines. It can take several days or even weeks for an app to be reviewed, depending on the platform and the complexity of the app. About a week ago, GTI Technologies. Sarah could be seen having a meeting with the head of the Bug Zapper team. How is the market reaction to Bug Zapper? She asked. The reaction is better than we expected, but since we have already leased a large amount of servers from Amazon, we managed to handle the traffic. How much % of users have we converted to premium version? The percentage is about 45%, and it keeps increasing, the team leader replied. That much? Asked Sarah in surprise, as she didn't expect it to be that successful. Yes, since there was a very positive feedback, it led to many people in the security industry to try it, and when they tried it and ended up liking it, they just upgraded to premium for more functionalities. What is our expected revenue by the end of the month? Currently, since we are having an influx of premium users, we have to wait for it to calm down to calculate accurately, but the finance department says that it will be triple or more what we predicted before the release. What is the most effective marketing from the ones we tried? From the last few days' results, the most important one is NATO's announcement, but the second best was the influencers. Influencers? She was pretty surprised by that. She expected it to be the television marketing, but it seemed that she was wrong. The team leader then explained to her why it might have happened. Influencers have influence over their viewer or readers, but many companies look down on them and haven't used influencers for marketing. As you know, the more you use something, the more people become used to it. And since almost no one used influencers in tech for marketing during this period of time, their marketing power caused a massive reaction from their users. Okay, increase the marketing budget allocated to influencers for this month, she ordered. Okay, the team leader replied and left the office to continue his work. Sarah couldn't hide her smile as she was happy with the success she was experiencing since she started working at the company. Although she was happy about it, she was also nervous that something might go wrong and she might not be able to handle it. This was why she was having meetings with teams in the company to know what is going on and be prepared to respond to any problem that might happen. Let me inform Aaron, she said as she took her phone and called Aaron to inform him of the good news. Back to today. Sarah was still in a good mood after a week of the release of Bug Zapper. Many companies have contacted them to buy the highest tier of the program for their use. This resulted in a high expected monthly earnings of the program. Since the highest tier was customized, every subscriber of that tier will be paying a different price calculated based on the resources used by the company, but the expected minimum was a monthly payment of $50,000. This could go as high as $500,000 monthly on the month of their system upgrade, hence the heavy use of the program. They still agreed to it because although it was expensive, it is still miles better than having to pay security companies or paying compensation for damage. It also reduced the money they spent on security measures, as the program does everything for them. As she was reading documents, she was interrupted by a call. When she looked at who the caller was and found out it was Aaron, she answered immediately. Hello, she said after answering the call. Hello, how are you doing? I'm doing pretty well due to the good news that keeps coming. Are the numbers still increasing? He asked as he expected it to have calmed after a week. Yes. This is expected to continue until the end of the month, she said, feeling proud. Congratulations, Aaron said as if it was not his company. So, what did you call about? Sarah asked Aaron as she knew he already forgot why he called. I wanted to inform you that the project is done. When are you free? I want to do the demonstration, he said faster than bullets. Already? It has only been 3 weeks since you took control of the server. She expressed her surprise. Yeah, I work very fast. So when are you free? How about tomorrow? She replied. Although there was work, she could make it work. Sure then. See you tomorrow? Yeah, see you. With that, they ended their call. Sarah returned to her work, but she couldn't hide her expectations as when Aaron showed her his first project, she couldn't believe its capabilities. And she expected the new project to be better than Bug Zapper or more wider-reaching than it in the least. That's why. Aaron returned home after he demonstrated the Gaia OS, prompting Sarah to change her phone's OS immediately as she liked all of its capabilities. They agreed to release it as soon as they could, and since the OS, that is acting as an app, was still in the approval process, they had time to prepare for the marketing of it. This time they decided to focus on marketing using influencers in all walks of life. Since the OS was something every phone or computer owner has, and sponsoring different genres influencers will lead to a larger audience receiving the news of the release of the OS. After he parked his car and entered the house, he found it empty as usual as his brother was in school. So, He went to his workroom to start his project of creating the Artificial General Intelligence, AGI, that will act as his assistant for the future. But just as he entered and closed the door of the room, he felt a cold barrel of something touching the back of his head. He thought his brother was playing a prank on him, but just as he was about to turn and end the prank, "Don't think about turning," a deep voice said, breaking all his excitement and making fear be the only thing he felt. "What do you want?" Aaron asked, trying to keep his voice steady as his heart wasn't at all. "I want something from you," the man said, his tone cold and threatening. "And I want it now." Aaron was taken aback. He had never been in a situation like this before, and he didn't know what to do. "Industrial espionage? Who sent you here?" he asked, still trying to hide his fear. But the man wasn't interested in Aaron's questions. He hit him with the back of a gun on Aaron's head, making him start bleeding a little. "Give me the source code, Bug Zapper, or I'll shoot you," he said, his voice low and dangerous. Aaron felt a chill run down his spine. He knew that this was serious. He had never been threatened like this before, and his head was bleeding. The man took a step closer to Aaron, the gun still trained on his head. Aaron could feel his heart pounding in his chest as he tried to think of a way out of this situation. He decided to give it to him, as it is not as important as his life. "It is on my computer," he said as he pointed at his work machine, implying that he will have to go there to be able to give it to him. "Move slowly," he said as he pushed him toward it, while making sure to keep his distance so that he could shoot him if he tried something funny. "Okay." Aaron moved slowly to prevent himself from getting killed. Although he seemed calm, he was nearly shitting on himself inside. He moved to his workstation and opened it, and went to the folder that held the first version of Bug Zapper that was written with existing programming language C++, C#, and many more. "Where should I copy it?" he asked. "Here." The man threw a small bag at him. Aaron took the bag, opened it, and removed the hard drive. He connected it to the computer and copied the program to the hard drive. Since the program was large, it took more than 10 minutes to be moved completely. "It is done," he said as he removed the hard disk and extended his hand backward so that he doesn't see his face to avoid getting killed. "You know if it is not the program, I will kill you and your family, right?" the man asked in a threatening tone. When Aaron heard about his family from the man's mouth, he stood up out of reflex, but before he could even turn fully around, he felt an intense pain on the side of his stomach. "Bang," is what he heard with the pain. Aaron stumbled forward and grabbed onto his desk for support. He felt a warm liquid oozing down his side and knew that he had been shot. He couldn't believe what had just happened. "Why?" "I gave you what you wanted," Aaron asked in pain as he covered his bleeding stomach and fought to stay awake. "I said don't make any move," the man said in a cold voice as he picked the hard drive that fell to the ground from Aaron's hands. "Now you just caused me more problems," the man said. In his voice, annoyance could be felt. There was no guilt or anything. To him, this felt like he was used to it. Aaron's mind raced as he struggled to stay conscious and avoid getting killed. But all of that was for naught as he saw the man raising his gun, pointing it to his head. The stranger walked around to the front of Aaron and looked down at him with cold, emotionless eyes. Aaron could see the gun in the man's hand and could see that he was about to be shot again, even while he struggled to keep his consciousness. "I'm sorry," Aaron thought of his parents and brother, his eyes closing as he fainted without waiting for the next shot. Outside of the operation room, Aaron's mother could be seen passing back and forth, fearing for the life of his son. His father could be seen sitting on the waiting chair, trying to act calm, not to freak out his wife more than she is. When he remembered how they found their son, bleeding to the point of covering the entire room with blood, he almost collapsed, thinking that he died from the amount of blood. His father was the first one to come to himself to call an ambulance while trying to calm his wife. When the ambulance arrived, which came much faster due to them living in a luxury location that had a hospital near them, they were surprised that he was still alive. Based on the amount of blood on the ground, he should have bled out an hour ago, but the heart was still beating and his breathing was still stable. So they carried him to the hospital rather than being amazed as he might die if they stared at him more. While on the way, they pumped him with as much blood as they could to try and fill his body with blood again and avoid him flatlining. In the ambulance, other than the machine beeping, Aaron's mother's cry could be heard as she was afraid that her son was going to die. When they arrived at the hospital, they immediately moved Aaron to the operating room without wasting any time, as they had been informed about his situation while they were on their way, leading to them sitting on the bench near the operating room waiting for their son to leave the operating room. Henry was with his parents, although he was nervous since he didn't know what dying was with too much details. He became the most calm one, as he could be seen playing with other kids in the hospital in the children's wards after he was sent there by the nurses after it was requested by his parents. Beep, 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 beep. The operating room was quiet, with people doing their job as seriously as they could be, and the only voice that could be heard was coming from the ECG. "Are you sure he nearly bled out?" asked the surgeon as he was checking the organs to assess the damage to the body. "The emergency workers reported that he was almost out of blood when they found him," replied the surgical assistant. He was also skeptical about the report too. "Then why are there no symptoms of showing as the result of heavy blood loss?" asked the surgeon in return. "Yeah, I'm skeptical about it too," replied the assistant surgeon while helping the head surgeon as he was encountering a problem separating some skin parts. As for his skepticism about Aaron's having bled out, this was because he wasn't showing any symptoms that should be shown by anyone with the same situation. He should have been in hypovolemic shock, since losing large amounts of blood leads to a drop in blood pressure and a decrease in the amount of oxygen that reaches the body's tissues. There was also organ failure. If the body does not receive enough oxygen-rich blood, vital organs such as the brain, heart, and kidneys may become damaged. This can lead to complications such as organ failure, stroke, or heart attack. But nothing of this sort was happening with the body. The patient's organs were functioning as usual. The heart wasn't showing any signs of heart attack. Neither was his immune system being compromised, as it was working as expected without any problem. What they didn't know was that something took the place of blood to supply the needed thing to the body from previous data to prevent him from dying. This was the reason he was still alive when his parents came home from picking Henry from school 4 hours later.